Something is wrong in your yard today. The feeder is full, the water is fresh, the morning is quiet, but the birds, they are gone. No cardinals at the edge of the feeder, no chickadees darting between branches, no finches, no sparrows, no soft flutter of wings, just silence, the kind that feels heavy, like something has been taken away without explanation. You stand there wondering, what changed? And here is the truth that most backyard birders never discover. Birds do not leave randomly. They do not simply wander off. Birds are intelligent, cautious creatures, and when they disappear from a yard, it is because something in that yard told them to leave. Something made them feel unsafe. Something broke their trust. In this video, I am going to reveal 10 everyday things that look completely harmless, that could be silently driving the birds away from your yard, possibly forever. Some of these will surprise you. One of them, the final one, completely changes how you see your relationship with every bird that has ever visited your yard. Stay until the end. Because number 10 is not just information. It is something that will stay with you long after this video is over. And if you are new here, welcome to the Backyard Oracle. Hit that subscribe button right now, because every week we bring you the kind of quiet, meaningful knowledge that makes your backyard come alive in ways you never expected. Let us begin. Reason 1. The unsafe feeder. The first mistake is one almost every backyard birder makes without realizing it. You bought a beautiful feeder. You filled it with seed. You hung it in a wide open spot so the birds would have plenty of room. And then, they barely came. Here is why. Birds do not see an open space as welcoming. They see it as a trap. In the wild, a bird that lands in an exposed area with no nearby cover is a bird that cannot escape quickly if a predator strikes. Hawks circle from above, cats creep from below, and a bird sitting in the middle of an open yard with no shrubs, no branches, no dense cover within a few feet. That bird is vulnerable, and it knows it. The feeder placement matters far more than what is inside the feeder. Birds need to feel that they can reach safety within 2 seconds of sensing danger. If your feeder is hanging far from any trees, bushes, or hedges, birds will approach cautiously, feed nervously, and eventually stop coming altogether. Move your feeder within 10 feet of natural cover, not so close that a cat can ambush from the bush, but close enough that birds can dart to safety in an instant. That one change alone can transform a quiet feeder into a busy one almost overnight. Reason 2. The false feast. Now let us talk about what is actually inside that feeder. Walk into any grocery store or garden center and you will find large, colorful bags of wild bird seed mix. They look generous, they look wholesome. The packaging often shows cardinals and bluebirds and beautiful songbirds that suggest your yard will be full of color and life. But flip that bag over and read the ingredients. Most commercial seed mixes are packed with milo, wheat, oats, and red millet, cheap filler ingredients that the birds you most want to attract simply will not eat. They push it aside, drop it on the ground, and fly off looking for something better. What birds actually want is black oil sunflower seed, Niger seed for finches, safflower seed for cardinals, peanuts for woodpeckers and jays. These are the foods that bring birds back again and again. If your feeder is full of the wrong seed, it does not matter how generous it looks. To the birds, it is an empty table. Reason 3. The poison table. But even if you have the right seed in the right location, there is a third mistake that turns your feeding station into something far worse than useless. It turns it into a danger. A dirty feeder kills birds. Wet seed molds within days. Old hulls pile up and rot. Bacteria and fungi grow silently in the damp corners of a feeder that looks perfectly fine from a distance. Birds that eat from a contaminated feeder can develop respiratory infections, eye diseases, and illnesses that spread rapidly through the flock. Salmonella outbreaks among songbirds have been traced directly to backyard feeders that were not cleaned regularly. Housefinch eye disease, a devastating illness that leaves birds nearly blind, spreads fastest at crowded, dirty feeders. Cleaning your feeder is not optional. It is the difference between a sanctuary and a silent hazard. Scrub it with a 10% bleach solution every 1 to 2 weeks. Rinse it thoroughly and let it dry completely before refilling. What appears to be a generous full feeder could be the very thing quietly wiping out the birds you love. Reason 4. The hidden predator. Now, let us talk about a reason that makes many viewers uncomfortable, because it involves an animal they also love. Cats. Studies by the Smithsonian Conservation Biology Institute estimate that outdoor cats kill between 1 and 4 billion birds in the United States every single year. That number is not a typo, 1 to 4 billion. But the problem in your yard goes even deeper than direct hunting. Birds are remarkably intelligent observers. They watch, they learn, they remember. If a cat, your pet, a neighbor's cat, a stray, visits your yard even occasionally, the birds will notice. They will associate your yard with predator presence, and they will begin avoiding it entirely, even on days when no cat is visible. The scent alone is enough to deter them. Birds that sense cat territory will simply choose a different yard, one that feels safer. If you have an outdoor cat, consider keeping them inside during peak bird feeding hours, particularly early morning. If neighborhood cats are the problem, motion-activated sprinklers can discourage their visits without harm. Your birds are watching the entire yard, not just the feeder. Every detail matters to them. Reason 5. The missing oasis. Here is something many backyard birders do not realize. For birds, water is often more important than food. Birds need water every single day, for drinking, for bathing, for maintaining the condition of their feathers. Healthy feathers mean healthy flight, and healthy flight means survival. Without access to clean water, birds cannot properly regulate their temperature or keep themselves free from parasites. But still, water is not enough. Birds are drawn to the sound and movement of water. A still bird bath sitting in the yard is easy to overlook. A bird bath with a small dripper, a fountain attachment, or a mister creates ripples and sound that birds can detect from a surprising distance. That gentle dripping sound acts like a dinner bell, calling birds in from neighboring yards and wooded areas nearby. Keep your bird bath shallow, no deeper than 2 inches in the center. Change the water every 2 to 3 days to prevent mosquito breeding and bacterial growth. In winter, a heated bird bath can make your yard the most visited destination in the entire neighborhood, because clean liquid water becomes one of the rarest and most valuable resources birds can find. Reason 6. The unpredictable world. Birds are creatures of habit and pattern. They thrive on routine. When the environment is calm and predictable, birds relax. They spend more time feeding, bathing, and singing. But when a yard becomes chaotic, sudden loud music, children running and shouting unpredictably, dogs barking aggressively and lunging toward the feeder, power tools running at random hours, birds experience that environment as unsafe. It is not that birds dislike activity. Plenty of birds visit busy yards comfortably. What disturbs them is unpredictability, the yard that is peaceful one moment and startling the next. If your yard has become noisier recently and you have noticed fewer birds, the two events may be directly connected. Even gradual changes, a new dog, a new outdoor speaker, increased foot traffic near the feeder, can shift the yard from a place of calm to a place of anxiety in a bird's perception. Consider placing feeders in the quieter corners of your yard, away from high-traffic areas. Give birds a zone where the environment remains consistent and peaceful, and they will reward you with their regular, trusting presence. Reason 7. The perfect desert. Here is a mistake that looks like good gardening but is quietly devastating to birds. The perfectly manicured yard, no fallen leaves, no brush piles, no wild patches, no overgrown corners, is one of the least bird-friendly environments imaginable. Fallen leaves are not yard waste, they are habitat. Insects, larvae, and seeds hide within them, and birds like robins, towhees, and thrushes depend on leaf litter for a significant portion of their diet. Brush piles provide shelter and nesting material. Seed heads on spent flowers feed sparrows and goldfinches through the cold months. When you rake every leaf, trim every branch, and maintain a spotless lawn, you are removing the very things that make your yard worth visiting. Leave a wild corner. Let some leaves rest beneath the shrubs. Allow a few seed heads to stand through winter. Plant native species that produce berries, seeds, and attract the insects that birds genuinely need. A little wildness is not untidiness. It is an invitation. Reason 8, the invisible killer. Of all the dangers hidden in a backyard, this one is the most invisible and the most deadly. Your windows. Birds cannot perceive glass as a barrier. When they see the reflection of trees and open sky in a window, they fly toward it at full speed. The impact is almost always fatal. Experts estimate that up to 1 billion birds die each year in the United States from window collisions alone. And here is what makes this even more heartbreaking. The birds most likely to collide are often the healthiest, most confident ones, flying at full speed rather than hesitating. The solution does not require replacing your windows. Applying window decals, vertical tape strips spaced 4 inches apart, or specialized window films that are nearly invisible to human eyes but visible to birds can reduce collisions dramatically. Even hanging a screen or netting outside the window at a slight distance creates a physical buffer that prevents fatal impact. If you have ever found a bird stunned or lifeless beneath your window, this was not bad luck. It was something that can be prevented, and preventing it is one of the most meaningful things you can do for the birds in your yard. Reason 9, the broken food chain. We live in a world where perfectly green, perfectly trimmed, perfectly insect-free lawns are considered a mark of pride. But for birds, that kind of yard is a silent catastrophe. Pesticides and insecticides do not just kill the insects you do not want. They kill everything. The beetles, the caterpillars, the moths, the grubs, all of the creatures that form the foundation of a bird's diet. Even birds that appear to eat only seed feed insects to their young almost exclusively during nesting season, because insects are the only food soft and protein-rich enough for nestlings to survive. A yard sprayed with pesticides becomes a broken ecosystem. The food chain collapses quietly, one invisible link at a time. Beyond direct elimination, pesticide residues accumulate in the insects and plants that birds consume. They weaken immune systems, disrupt reproduction, and reduce the survival rates of young birds in ways that are invisible to the human eye but devastating over time. Consider moving toward native plant gardening, which naturally attracts the right insects in balanced numbers. Accept some leaf damage on your plants as a sign that your yard is alive. An imperfect garden that sustains insects sustains birds, and that is far more valuable than a flawless one that sustains nothing. Reason 10, the emotional climax, the choice. I told you at the beginning that the final reason was the most powerful. I told you it would change how you see your relationship with birds forever. Here it is. Every bird that visits your yard has made a choice. They were not assigned to you. They were not directed there by instinct alone. They explored, they evaluated, they watched, and they decided that your yard was safe, that your yard was worth returning to, that you were someone they could trust. That cardinal who comes every morning, he has learned your schedule. He notices when the feeder is full. He notices when it is not. That chickadee who watches you from the branch while you refill the seed, she is not simply waiting. She is reading you. She has decided you are not a threat. This is not a small thing. In a world full of danger for a small bird, choosing to return to the same place day after day is an act of profound trust. And when birds stop coming, when the yard goes silent, it is not simply a missing bird problem. It is a broken relationship. Something eroded that trust, slowly, quietly, until one morning they simply did not return. But the reverse is also true. Every time you clean the feeder, every time you refresh the water, every time you sit quietly and let them come close, you are honoring that trust. You are telling them, this place is safe. You are safe here. At the Backyard Oracle, we believe that these small, quiet moments between people and birds may be more meaningful than most people ever stop to realize. So if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe so you never miss the kind of knowledge that brings your backyard to life. And tell me in the comments, which of these 10 reasons surprised you most? And has a bird ever visited your yard so regularly for so long that you gave them a name? I would love to hear your story.